Welcome to our deep dive exploring cryotherapy. We'll be seeing if this popular recovery method actually lives up to all the hype.
Yeah, a lot of people are curious about it.
We've got a lot of really interesting sources this time around. We've got articles from CNET and Cryo.
Oh, nice.
Plus, we've got some info from a cryotherapy equipment supplier. And we even found a chiropractic clinic that offers something called localized cryotherapy. So we're going to be cutting through the marketing to figure out what the science says. Are there benefits? Are there risks involved? All that good stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
All right, so let's jump right in. What exactly is cryotherapy?
Well, cryotherapy basically uses freezing or near freezing temperatures. And they do this for, various medical and wellness purposes. It's actually something that's been around for ages, would you believe? It goes all the way back to ancient Egypt.
I did not know that.
Yeah. But these days, when you hear people talking about cryotherapy, they're usually talking about two main types. Whole body cryotherapy, we call that WBC, and localized cryotherapy.
Okay. Yeah, the WBC is the one that always seems to grab my attention. The whole stepping into a chamber filled with liquid nitrogen vapor thing.
Right.
Almost seems like a science fiction movie.
Well, it's a pretty unique experience.
Yeah.
At WBC, you're basically standing in this enclosed chamber, and you're only in there for a short period, typically 2 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
And that's where the temperature really plummets down to between -200 and -300 degrees Fahrenheit, all thanks to that liquid nitrogen.
-300 degrees. That's incredibly cold.
It is.
I have to ask what safety measures are in place, because that sounds extreme.
Oh, absolutely. Safety is extremely important, very important.
Yeah.
You're right to be concerned. With WBC, you actually wear minimal clothing, and you're provided with protective gear for those more sensitive areas like your ears, nose, hands, and feet. And limiting the exposure time is really crucial to avoid any serious risks like frostbite.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're in this unbelievably cold chamber for a few minutes, but what exactly are the benefits that have so many people intrigued by cryotherapy?
Well, the proponents of cryotherapy really tout a whole slew of benefits. Things like faster workout recovery, reduced inflammation, pain relief, increased flexibility, muscle healing, and even weight loss are just a few of the things you hear.
That's quite the list of potential benefits. So let's unpack some of those claims a little. First up, faster workout recovery. Is there any science to back that up?
Yeah, there's actually a good amount of research that supports the idea of faster workout recovery with cryotherapy, especially when it's used immediately after, a really intense workout. It seems particularly effective in reducing muscle soreness. Interestingly, Leicester City's Premier League title win back in 2016, some people attribute that in part to their use of cryotherapy. They think it helped the players recover more quickly, which allowed them to train more intensely and more often.
That is really interesting. I had no idea about that Leicester City connection, so it's potentially not just a recovery tool. It could give athletes a competitive edge.
Potentially, yeah.
All right, so what about reducing inflammation? Is that another area where the science backs it up?
Yeah, cold therapy in general is very well established as a way to reduce inflammation.
Okay.
It's a lot like icing an injury. Cryotherapy is kind of just applying that same principle, but on a larger scale.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so what about pain relief? It seems like the numbing effect of extreme cold could logically help with pain, at least temporarily.
Right, exactly. The extreme cold basically just numbs the nerves, so you get temporary pain relief. It could be a pretty viable option for managing pain, at least in the short term.
Okay, interesting. Now this one really piques my interest. Increased flexibility. I'm always looking for ways to improve mine. Does cryotherapy really help with that?
Well, there is a study out there that showed a pretty immediate improvement in sit and reach flexibility. And this was after just a single whole-body cryotherapy session. That sounds pretty promising, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Another study found similar results for hamstring flexibility just by applying crushed ice to the legs.
Wait, so a bag of ice could be just as good for improving flexibility as a fancy cryotherapy session?
It could be, yeah. So while cryotherapy might offer some benefits, it's good to consider if there are simpler, more cost-effective ways to achieve similar results.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so what about muscle healing? Are there any claims that cryotherapy can speed up the healing process?
Well, the research on that is still kind of mixed. Some studies show positive results, but others are showing that those good old-fashioned ice baths might actually be just as effective, or even more so. So we definitely need more research in this area.
Okay, so maybe not a guaranteed fix for injuries. Now, the claim that I was the most skeptical of, weight loss, does just freezing your body really lead to shedding pounds?
I think we both know that one's a myth. The shivering you experience during cryotherapy does burn some calories, but the effect is minimal. Any increase in metabolism is temporary and not likely to lead to any, noticeable or long-term weight loss.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. No shortcut to a beach body through freezing,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Okay, so it does seem like there are some potential benefits to cryotherapy, especially for athletes. But let's talk about the downsides. What risks do we need to be aware of?
Yeah, there are definitely some risks to consider. You could have some temporary side effects like some tingling, numbness, or even skin irritation. But the things that are more concerning are the risks of frostbite, or even in really extreme cases, a frozen limb. There's actually a really tragic case where a woman died in a cryotherapy chamber, although they think her death was caused by oxygen deprivation due to the nitrogen-rich environment, not the cold itself.
Wow, okay. That's pretty scary. Are there any long-term effects that we should be concerned about?
Well, that's one of the big unknowns right now. The long-term consequences of repeated exposure to that level of cold, it really hasn't been studied thoroughly. Some experts have voiced concerns about the possibility of nerve damage, but we really need more research to fully understand any long-term effects.
Okay, so a lot we still don't know. So we've been talking a lot about whole body cryotherapy. What about localized cryotherapy? How's that different?
Localized cryotherapy is much more targeted. Instead of, immersing your whole body in the extreme cold, localized cryotherapy directs a stream of cold air to specific areas. One of the sources we looked at, Back on Track to Wellness, is a good example of a clinic that uses this type of cryotherapy.
So it's almost like using an ice pack, but with much fancier equipment.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So what are the potential benefits of this targeted approach?
Well, the benefits they claim are similar to those of whole-body cryotherapy, but on a smaller, more focused scale. So they often use localized cryotherapy for pain relief, reducing inflammation, and helping speed up recovery from injuries. Some even say it can stimulate collagen production, which could potentially be beneficial for skin rejuvenation.
Oh, collagen, really? So this could be a possible alternative to those expensive beauty treatments out there?
It's a possibility, yeah. Early research on using cryotherapy for skin rejuvenation does look promising, but we definitely need more evidence to confirm its effectiveness.
More research needed? That seems to be a theme with cryotherapy.
It does seem that way.
Speaking of Back on Track to Wellness, they mentioned combining cryotherapy with other therapies. What's the thinking behind that?
It's all about creating synergy. Their idea is that cryotherapy can actually boost the effectiveness of other treatments. So things like chiropractic care, spinal decompression, red light therapy, and even functional medicine.
Huh. That's pretty intriguing, this whole holistic approach. Can you give me some specific examples of how cryotherapy might actually complement some of these other therapies?
Sure, absolutely. So let's say you just had a chiropractic adjustment. If you then applied localized cryotherapy to that area, it could help to reduce inflammation and muscle tension.
Okay.
And that could make the adjustment more effective, more comfortable, and potentially lead to faster healing and more range of motion.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like prepping the body for the adjustment and then helping it recover afterward.
Yeah.
What about combining it with red light therapy?
Red light therapy, which uses specific wavelengths of light to kind of regenerate cells and reduce inflammation, could work really well with cryotherapy. You're essentially getting a double dose of anti-inflammatory power. And because cryotherapy helps to improve blood flow, you can actually help deliver that red light deeper into the tissues, which would make it even more effective.
Wow, so they actually boost each other's benefits.
Exactly.
Are there any other therapies that you think cryotherapy might pair well with?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you could combine it with massage therapy, physical therapy, acupuncture, even yoga. It's really about understanding the individual's needs and their goals. Then you can create this tailored plan that incorporates cryotherapy strategically.
So it's not just about enduring a few minutes of freezing temperatures. It's about understanding how to actually integrate cryotherapy into a broader wellness approach.
You got it. It's about figuring out how it fits into your overall strategy, what your needs are, and what your specific goals are.
So we've laid out the basics. We've talked about some of those claimed benefits, the potential risks. But now I really want to understand how cryotherapy actually works. Like what's happening inside our bodies when we're exposed to those really extreme temperatures.
It is pretty remarkable what happens. Remember how we were talking about the body kind of going into survival mode during whole body cryotherapy?
Uh-huh.
Well, those ultra low temperatures actually trigger a physiological response in your body. And it's designed to protect those vital organs. So the blood vessels in your extremities, your arms and legs, they constrict, basically redirecting that blood flow from your limbs to your core.
So for those couple minutes, your body's basically prioritizing keeping your core warm, even if it means your arms and legs get a little neglected.
Yeah, pretty much. And that process, that vasoconstriction, is thought to be a big reason why cryotherapy has so many of the benefits that are claimed. That rapid decrease in blood flow to the muscles and tissues, that's thought to help reduce inflammation and swelling. It's almost like you're hitting the pause button on those inflammatory processes.
That's really interesting. But then what happens when you step out of that freezing chamber?
Well, then you get the opposite. Vasodilation. The blood vessels open back up, and the blood flow rushes back to your extremities. And that surge of blood is thought to help flush out metabolic waste products that build up in your muscles during exercise. And it delivers a fresh supply of oxygen and nutrients to those muscles, which can really aid in recovery.
So it's like a reset for your circulatory system, almost like wringing out the muscles and then rehydrating them. Does that mean that those claims about cryotherapy boosting metabolism for weight loss are completely bogus?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
you shiver during cryotherapy, you're burning some calories, but it's really minimal. And that temporary increase in metabolism just isn't enough to lead to any significant or lasting weight loss.
That's what I figured. No shortcuts to a beach body through freezing, unfortunately.
What about those other claims, though, like its impact on flexibility and muscle healing? What's the science behind those? Well, the research on flexibility is interesting, although it's not totally conclusive. Some studies have suggested that cryotherapy can, at least in the short term, improve range of motion. They think the cold might be able to temporarily reduce muscle stiffness, which would then make stretching more effective.
Okay, that makes sense. It's almost like applying heat to loosen up your muscles before you stretch, but in reverse.
Exactly.
So, what about the muscle healing claims? Does cryotherapy actually speed up the healing process after an injury?
Well, that's where we need more research for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
some studies show some really good results, but other studies say that good old-fashioned ice baths might be just as effective. So the jury's still out on whether cryotherapy really has a significant advantage there.
More research needed. That seems to be a theme with cryotherapy.
It really does.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about the practical side of incorporating cryotherapy into a wellness routine. Say somebody is thinking about trying cryotherapy. What advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing I would say is talk to your doctor. You want to make sure that cryotherapy is safe and appropriate for you. Everybody's different. What works for one person might not work for another.
That's great advice. What other things should someone consider before they take the plunge, so to speak?
They should definitely think about their budget. Cryotherapy sessions can be pretty pricey, especially if you're thinking about doing them regularly. It's worth comparing that cost to some of those alternatives we've talked about: ice baths, massage, compression therapy, especially since we don't have a lot of research yet on the long-term effects of cryotherapy.
That's a really good point. Cost is definitely a factor to keep in mind. What about finding a reputable provider? Are there any specific things to look for when choosing a cryotherapy center?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not all cryotherapy providers are created equal. Definitely look for a facility that has experienced staff, certified staff, high-quality equipment, and make sure they're following strict safety protocols. You really want to feel confident that you're in good hands.
Absolutely. Safety should be the top priority. Okay, so what about the frequency of treatments? Is this something you need to do every day, or can you do it less frequently?
It really depends on what the person's goals are, what they're hoping to achieve.
Okay.
Some people might benefit from daily sessions. Other people might only need it once or twice a week. It's best to talk to their doctor or a qualified cryotherapy provider to figure out what frequency is going to be best for their particular situation.
So it's a very individualized approach. There's no one-size-fits-all solution here. Okay, well, let's go back to the idea of combining cryotherapy with other wellness practices. That chiropractic clinic we were talking about earlier, Back on Track to Wellness, they're big advocates for combining it with things like chiropractic care and red light therapy. Do you think that approach has any merit?
Oh, definitely. I think that's a smart approach.
Yeah.
Cryotherapy can actually enhance a lot of other therapies because it helps reduce inflammation, improve blood flow, and promote healing.
Okay, can you give me some examples of how cryotherapy might be combined with other therapies to create those synergistic effects?
Sure. Like we discussed before, it could be a great complement to chiropractic adjustments. By reducing inflammation and muscle tension around the spine, it can really make adjustments more comfortable, more effective, and potentially help you heal faster and increase your range of motion.
Right, that makes sense. It's like prepping the body for the adjustment and then helping it recover afterward. What about pairing it with red light therapy?
Red light therapy uses those specific wavelengths of light to stimulate cell regeneration, reduce inflammation. And, it goes really well with cryotherapy. You're basically doubling down on that anti-inflammatory power.
Hmm.
And because cryotherapy helps improve blood flow, it can help deliver that red light deeper into the tissues.
So they kind of amplify each other's benefits?
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any other therapies that you think cryotherapy might be a good match for?
Oh, for sure. You can combine it with massage therapy, physical therapy, acupuncture, even yoga. Really, it's about understanding the person's needs and their goals, and then creating a wellness plan that incorporates cryotherapy in a way that makes sense.
So it's not just about those few minutes of freezing cold. It's about how you fit it into your overall wellness approach.
You got it. It's about figuring out how cryotherapy fits into your own unique needs and goals.
I like that. So as we wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways that you hope our listeners are walking away with?
Well, the most important takeaway, I think, is that cryotherapy is a really powerful tool. It has some real potential, but, it's not a miracle cure, and it's important to remember that there are risks involved.
It's like anything else in the health and wellness world, right? There's no magic bullet. You have to understand the science. You have to weigh the benefits and the risks, and then, make an informed decision.
Exactly. You can't just buy into the hype. Talk to your doctor. Think about what your individual needs and goals are, and do your research before jumping into anything new.
Right, and don't forget about those alternatives we talked about, like ice baths, massage, compression therapy. Those can be super effective too, and they're often a lot more affordable.
That's so important. It's all about figuring out what works best for you. What might be a game changer for one person might not be the right fit for another.
Absolutely. This deep dive wasn't about telling anyone whether or not cryotherapy is right for them. It was about giving you, the listener, the information you need to make that decision for yourself.
Exactly. We've explored the science, we've looked at the claims, we even saw how cryotherapy can be used with other wellness practices. So it's really up to you to decide if this is something that you want to try.
Cryotherapy, miracle cure, or costly chill? Well, the answer, like most things in life, is a little more complicated than a simple yes or no. It's about understanding the science. It's about weighing the pros and cons, and then making a decision based on your individual needs and your circumstances. And hopefully, this deep dive has given you the tools to do just that.
Yeah, and remember, the path to optimal health and well-being is a journey. It's all about exploring, learning, and staying curious. So keep an open mind as you navigate this world of wellness. There are always new things to discover.
That's a great point. Well, thanks for joining us on this cryotherapy deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and empowering. Until next time, keep exploring and stay well.